It's a delight for me to be here in Birmingham and to be sharing in worship with this community. Lost my translator. The general English tradition was that if people didn't understand you, you shouted louder in the hope that then they would understand you. But I think it had wrong to do it.
وعندي برمجان مزايا ما تكون بركابي تعبي نقصن عبي دسانس معدي كله عشان هذا يسمونه
It's always a great pleasure to join in worship with Eritrean congregations because you demonstrate by the nature of your worship the great reverence and the great joy that you have in the Lord, and to hear and the singing and dancing after the liturgy is always a real joy. And I know I've often brought people to Eritrean services who weren't expecting it, and I see their faces light up with the pleasure of finding this traditional, vibrant way of worship.
كل يوم ما كل إيرتراويان ترهيبة قداسي ويزغون الصوت كعرب كله أزي عبيد إنسان حقوس نسمع عني لأن المنال المنتهي بتلفزيونكم أزي حفتام زغون بهذه السلسلة أفكار بتلفزيونات قرآن وزيت رخبو فلي نجار أفكار بتلفزيونات زي أسرة رخبوي لعلى كل ما تعرف بحرق قداسي نهي مسؤول مسكنا صغار تعامل مسؤول أني نعيد رأيت المسجد زيكم كوستر نفسي كالمحجون أنا بيدي كريستيان إيرتراويان لازم تقوم بحسابات اليوم أو بيدي كريستيان وسيم ما نحت برنامج مدو جزء بريء وساب كلمة حاجوس الإنسان كمسموع بريء صليمو وزقات أمي مع أنتم تعمل دسكم زمنني بيدي كريستيان كمان ساب كلمة هابتان بلان خمس الوقت كيسايكم يفتحوا.
As you may have guessed, I'm not Eritrean, and I am in fact am the British Bishop of the Coptic Church. I have authority to look after the British Orthodox Church, which are those British members of the Coptic Patriarchate. But my connection with the Eritrean community goes back some many years, because I was ordained as a metropolitan the same day that His Holiness Pope Shenoda ordained the first 5 Eritrean abbots to be the bishops of the church, and that of course at that time included Patriarch Antonius when he was made a bishop. So we were all on the same day, and in a sense we felt always that there's a unity particularly among us because of them being from the same service, and the Holy Spirit fell upon us all at that time.
برجس كم بترين زلهم على إيرتراويان بقول لكم حبشاوين ناس إيرتراويان أزين عمتاز مدرس تأثير تاريخ عني حبشاوي إنجليزاوي بينهم أبتحتنا اسكندرية من برمانكوس ثم حضر بكتير على الإنجليز ويبريتش أورثودوكس تشيرش تبعنا توع ثم حضروا لي كباباسيا على ثلاثة مدماني دايركتلي كابو شنودا ويدماني كام برمانكوس كاب إسكندرية زمتي حبشاوي تي إيرترا مس أبوتاتنا إيرترا زلو ركب يبصو جمهور كله نعمتها في زمدرس يلي مسلماني باباسي ونيرون كباباس لي كباباس كأبوم كله متروبوليتان مالتي أبتعدت أب حنسا مزون حموشت أبونا إيرترا ناي إيرترا اللي يكساكم محدور تباهيلو باباساس تغبو نيرون كمونغو كفن حموشت الماي بزوء كدوس أبونا أنتونيوس Patriarch Eritrea, so niyurun malati. ስለዚህ ታሪክ አሁን ጀምሯል.
So it's my great privilege also to know the Patriarch Philippos, meet him several times in Cairo when he was visiting Pope Shenoda, and also to get to know the other Eritrean bishops at the time, including Abu Antonius. Back in England, I was very happy to see the Eritrean community growing. And in fact, I was the only other bishop attending at the time of the consecration when Bishop Makarios consecrated St. Michael and All Angels. So in fact, I was co-consecrated with him of the church there. And always worked very closely with all the Eritrean communities as possible. Unfortunately, of course, with the events that took place with the removal of Patriarch Antonius, it meant that really we had to make a stand about where truth and justice lay. There was a godly patriarch who had defended the justice and truth of things and wouldn't agree to have clergy removed from office or imprisoned who were being faithful and true. And so it was necessary to stay in support of that. And so we have always in the British Orthodox been anxious to join our voices with those who pray for Patriarch Antonius and those who share our concern about the way events have gone that might have been better. And so obviously the work of the European Diocese that exists now is one which we are very happy to participate and share in. I've known Bishop Makarios also for many years, and we're from the same monastery, the Syrian monastery in Egypt, and so we have a lot of shared understanding. I'm very happy to work and participate with all those communities of Eritreans and to share with them in prayer for a fulfilled spiritual life and freedom and justice.
مزحزة حسن كرتيكم خوني قرقل دروسي لوجن كبعمل فتني حبشاوي مجمريا خزاركم كله مس أبونا فيليبوس كمي أبونا أنطونيوس إريتريان باتريارك زنبرو مس أمن إفارة خمس نبرو مس أمن زفية خمس نبرو نعم فلاتو المالك سبت نبدأ لسان حبسن كم سمعون قريزهم دهرين المالك بتاع قديمة جلسكم مس باباساتنا إريترا مش محساب استغلوا نساتهم مالك باباس استغلوا على تنيرو كاو لدحار دمام سي إريترا فريق متأثر زلم نقدي سمعني أبسفار لي قولنا تابزغل كل ما نرجع بإريترا كي تلاقوا أي حد من يبنو أبعد إنجليز مثل أقول أبسفار لي إريتراويان كهانات مهنو ويبسفار المعارك زغلقلو أبانا لإكسام ويبتنتنس رخيبانية كابتي كلمة مازل أبو سني دبر سايل كدوس ميكايل بيدي كسام لندن مجمريا كونسكريت كبير مكتو كونسكريت انتاي مالتي بيدي كسام مجمريا هنسا مساعدة كداسة تخيلات ودسل منها باباس مزيد تابوت كاتولو نتهنسا مالي ميرو كتبيدي كسام كبار خلو سلزي أب مبراهنا دبر سايل كدوس ميكايل بيدي كسام مجمريا هنس مكنا تدنكو أبا سراف بعينيره سلزي تقدر سنتين بإركايا نوي عمدات كيقول لي تريفو كاو مقصال المالي زي زقات المهنتات بإرترام سنتاتنا لبطوء قدوس أبونا أنطونيوس زي أقاوي مهنيات كامن برو مسلقه تي إرترام برغابي كون سنبرا سايل قدوس ميكايل برغابي كون زحن تنبرا قل كل فتحن حكن عبيلو نخطر أقداس لزمانه مقدر فتحن حكن المالي خنالي تقبيله زقاتهم المالية وعادي ليس غالي مدات تحريت الفطير اليورو كابتغل نزل سنة المالي تناي هاجر سكت ناي أوروبا مقامو ناي هاجر سكت ناي أوروبا مقامو أفتح المالي ناي مساعد سكت ناي عادي إنجليز زقبر زلهم قصواسن فلادن نحنا المالي كان بريتش أورثودوكس وكان بريتش كوبتيك تشيرش نتزلو هاجر سكت بملو الحجز دلوقتي كم سكرنا كلميون مس بيشوب مكاريوس ويعمل مكاريوس مس يوناس نبرو زغال مخريات الفارتينا أبقدام ونابلسين كلنا بحال القدام سيريان مونستري بحال ويدماني قدام ناي سورياوان يفريم سورياوان زنبرو القدامي كنس يفريم سورياوي وداس مريم زنبرسن زنبرو القدامي أو حسب نيرنا سلازي ركبي مس إريتراويان كابشو تيزو سابجي غطسالي مستفار لي مهنزات الماني كحجزن أبقونون لو كبلن فغارين ناي نسوق خوجن حكم بتحزن كبرلو سايد خورالو كلكسن كابزب المغصال زونه كاب على بعلي الزارب نالباش نسوم نعم تدايو زي تدايو الزارب يقول يوم مو حتى ندل حتى ترى أهليو كابافي ساعات حتى مو ساعات لما مجلس الدولة زعما زمان نفوتون للنجار تلالو نبدأ تومو كل زمان
Yes, we're conscious of the problem of having to share other people's premises. We have some churches of our own, but we also have to share premises where we are in certain places. I have tried to make contact initially with the Catholic Bishop of Birmingham, who I know, and so I'm working in conjunction with your church committee to see if we can find other ways and make the good contacts with the other Christian communities that will enable you to possibly find premises that are more full-time, where you can worship regularly.
تناي من كتاب حول أكثر من الناس. نحن أول كتناتكم ترخبوا زلهم سجوا بحركة المتدافع كمان تناي بمالو مغنياتو فبزحت بديك سنة بعد إنجليز زلنا كل أيام من هونينا زعوا هالزهر بزلهم قالوا كبزناتكم لبنان تقبل اللوز لازم تشجر يلدأناي حبشاوي كابتن متصالين اللي كباباساتنا كاثوليك بديك سنة بلندن برمنغهام زلوا ملأت سيدهم لهم يرو بزعوا سانس ملكتهم بزعوا خالد سفر لي حاجز عنا نتقربنا ስለዚህ ነቱ ጉዳይ በቀረባይ ካታተልወሎ እሱም አባላትና ቤተክርስቲያንና ኮሚቴ ድማ ኣብ ሐሳብዋን አሪፍ በጽሐ መልሰው ተጻናኝ ስለዚህ አንበሰት ዘለውላይ ካለ ከጻን አተውከልና
I have with me also my secretary Trevor, who drives me and does all various tasks to help me. He is responsible for having constructed the website Restoring Patriarch Antonius, which he helped, he made up and we used for some time. He came also with me to America for the conference of the American Diocese there a few years ago. And he's now also in dialogue about constructing a new website for the diocese here, because obviously that is very useful for people. I know the younger ones among you are very keen on technology, and so we value the way of reaching people by that means. So we do have some expertise here, and so Trevor is obviously trying to be helpful. And we are using some of our other clergy to assist in other ways, those who run education courses as well for the clergy and for the people. So we're thinking of different ways in which we can support and assist and encourage the work that your clergy are doing. They're not alone, they have loving, supporting friends among the brother and sister churches in England.
ዋና ጸሐፊውም ትሬቨር አብዚያሎ ከላሊን ያምሰኒው ትሬቨር ሪስቶር ፓትሪያርክ አቡነ አንቶኒዮስ ግል ዌብሳይት አለው ሽናይ ብፁዕ ቅዱስ አቡነ አንቶኒዮስ ወጽ ዌብሳይት ተወልደ ዓላማነት ዌብሳይት ማኒ ብፁዕ ቅዱስ አቡነ አንቶኒዮስ ዘይካው ምንያ ስለተአሰሩ ይፈተው ዝብል ዌብሳይት አለው ሰፋሪ ሰባት ኮሜንትስ ገብሩ ስለዚህ ነት ዌብሳይት ዲዛይን ጌሩ አማዓና ለበጽሕ ገበረ ልስዩ ዓቢ ምስጋና ተባና ይግቦ ከመወጻልን ጥቅልመጂ ተዛሪና ለዝነበርና ናይ ሀገረ ስብከት ኢሮፓ ዌብሳይት ዲዛይን ይፈጠም ዘሎ አምሰት ተብዘሎ በዛሐለፈ ዓመተ በዓልና ናይ ቅዱስ ጊዮርጊስ አቤ በሲሖን ዘሎ ለሸሪና ነርና ቀንደ ንዑና ክነብር ዝሕግዘና ዘሎ ለምን ነገርለይ ማዓልትሁን ንስዩ ለዞን ታሪክ ምስጋና ይግቦይ ተወልደ ዓላማ ድማ እንታይ ነቶም መንእሰያትና ደቅናት ሕጂ ዝውለዱ ጥቃል እግዚአብሔር ቤተክርስቲያን ምስም ሰምኖ ዘይክል ምክንያት ክፍተር ስለዝኽእል ዌብሳይት ጌርካ ነት መንፈሳዊ ነገራት ንምሕላፍ እዩ ስለዚህ سفر لي مغنياتات أبعاد إنجليز كاب سفر لي إحوات وأحد بيتكسانات وزا حاجة زي مثلا الذي بيننا يكونان بينهم هنا يكون مزلهم لهم اللو لساتو برايز يكونوا قاعد مزحات عبد الكسانة قلنا خوينا زي كزانا بلزلوا so don't feel alone the traveler عبد الكسانة.
One of the things which I find very encouraging is to see not only the clergy but the contact between the communities that exist up and down the countries. So that's very good. I mean, I'm obviously in touch with the congregation in Manchester and with Father Yonas and Doncaster and Sheffield, and obviously with Father Shenouda down in London, And I know it's nice to see people here who I see sometimes there and in other places. So I do think that it's very good that you've got this caring, close-knit community that is looking and supporting and helping one another. And that is obviously a way in which you will be strengthened and you will grow, to be loving and supportive and caring of one another. And I think people will find that infectious, and I find it very positive. And I believe the Lord will bless that. It's a very fine quality, and I hope you will keep that strong. And to be principled, but principled in a way that's not contentious, not a way that you're always arguing. It's just standing and saying what is right and what is true and what is just, and not moving from that. But on the other hand, not wanting to just spend time pointlessly arguing with other people who don't share that point of view. That is the Christian way, and that is commendable.
After Birmingham زلوا مرات مانشستر شeffield كمونا بسفارة لندن تزلوكم تأثار ومرخات جل سبعة after Birmingham زريوم مانشستر كيد داسن جبر كلهون أو يريومي كمونا بلندن بسفارة لوزات ترخوا كلهم بحسب النهريهم أكبر بعدات تبع كلهم سافر لمتين حالنا كم زوج لكم موزجلس زي ما أنا أزي عابي حيليو لما زايد ما أنا نحكمنا باورون أب مونغهم دمالي تسانيهم أب زعابي برجع حيلنا نتصو أزي حكا زيمو لازم تزلكوا فوري تتصل وقت زلكوا تسار دمالي دوال تبلو لعبة كله جن أكاي رنا هم لكذب principle كله أكاي لا تكون له principle تبنيان تاي تبال مسرت ويدما النخلوس نبي هيك كمزلنا فلت مثل علينا زي برينسيبل كنقول كلنا نبحال وجن ويدما نبي ما نسجع مخال زي كونه النخلو وجن كل جزء من ذلك كنا له مسحكا فتح نزلوا لذي كم خونا له كينا زلنا متسار الماني كنا قارس أيضنا وصلت عن طيب الروت أنه مسكشيونا ساب شفيل كشافه مانشستر كشيشنا دار لندن زلوا الرهبي وصاري سافر من ثاني حالة تمرة كم زلكم ما يقتلهم لذي إجابة ربنا نتعلم بتكون بزمنات كبار ما يخلي زلكم متحبان المالك أصلوا أصلوا ويتبروا تعبير
كلنا كم نفضل أبنا أنتينوس مساهم تطبيع نيرهم أو نجد على طبيعي أبغى تمالتيو حجي يفسر سنة عملات كان أبغى تبي تعطي معلومات زيت فردناجر حجي كابز كاتينا زيت فردها يوم الماضي بهنا نجارات كل سنة فرد بزيادة نسبة شندا ولا نسبة باباسات كتراه وسد خلو تزورلو أمامهم تجمع زكاة بالتجمع انتهى قانون عسكري تقول الناس بونيرو كلاي كلا
What he's saying is His Holiness Bishop, His Holiness Father Makarios was ordained on the same day as you were ordained as Metropolitan, and for unknown reasons he's been imprisoned, and he was ordained by optional same person who ordained him. So as your relations go as far as to optional and several other bishops, could you just enlighten us with some words? What's the real reason behind his imprisonment? Is it religious or any sort of other reason?
When Patriarch Antonius was removed from power, the accusations against him were never substantiated, and everybody knew that it was because he would not cooperate with the government. And so it was done, if you remember, in stages. First of all, he was removed from the exercise of anything but spiritual authority, and then eventually they took his car and gradually did various things as a sort of form of saying, if you don't comply with what we want you to say and do, we will take all. And they did. And he stood by that. He was honest and true. And in his statement he calls upon Pope Schneider and the abbots of the monasteries in the canonical way if there was an accusation against him, to be dealt with according to church law. That was never done. I was present in Cairo, in Alexandria, near the monastery, with Pope Shenouda, when Bishop Makarios came present to celebrate Pope Shenouda's anniversary of his enthronement. I was present and heard Pope Shenouda tell Bishop Makarios, "You have betrayed your patriarch," he said to him. He was very angry. He didn't say it calmly like that. He said, "You have betrayed your patriarch," very firmly. And Bishop Makarios was speechless. He didn't know what to say. And he didn't have an answer because that was true. He had decided not to stand by the truth. Now that was a very wrong judgment. Up until then, I had worked closely with Bishop Makarios and with the clergy in London. I regarded them as my friends. They are not my enemies, but they have made the wrong judgment, I believe. Now the Coptic Church has stood very firmly and always said that it will only recognise Patriarch Antonius, no other person put in his place. That's against the Church canons to do that. Patriarch Antonius has never been adjudged to being guilty of any serious crime that requires his removal. In fact, the consensus is that this is a man of God who has stood firmly, who has suffered for the truth. And he is actually only a symbol of all the other people who suffer, because we know there are other clergy and other people who he tried to protect. And in doing so, he lost all the power and the authority that was given to him. But he gained, as the fathers of the church, some of the martyrs, the professors, and the pastors, he gained far much more in spiritual stature. And so when I speak to people now around the other churches about Patriarch Antonius, they have profound respect for him, because they know this was a man who sacrificed all power and authority in order to stand by the truth. And so we still pray for Patriarch Antonius throughout the Coptic Church. We're required to pray for him every prayer service, just as we did for Pope Shenouda. And so that is why also the Coptic Church only recognises as the representative of the Eritrean Church Bishop Makarios and his diocese. It doesn't recognise any of the synod that is back in Asmara, because it knows that they are not free. They have allowed themselves to be under the control of the government. Now, the Eritrean Church in Eritrea is still the authentic Eritrean Church, but it is led by men who have compromised things, and so their authority is weak, isn't acceptable. But we pray for them because they need our prayers that one day that unity will be restored. It's happened in other countries. It happened in Russia. It happened in Ethiopia in the past. We pray that one day the situation will be improved and people will be able to have that good relations restored again that once were there. The Coptic Church has stood firmly by Patriarch Antonius.